Rich trying to scoot in there alone. It pinballs to the crease.
Let's get it.
Oh my God! Here we go.
You're listening to the Street Bullies podcast with your hosts, Derek.
Now you gotta get it, brother.
John. Matt Casey.
Unnecessary, but totally necessary.
And Cody.
What's not to love?
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Street Bullies. My name is Derek.
Hey, I'm Matt, and that's the other Matt. And we're stepping in for
John is not here.
John is not here. No, I almost was not here either, but we needed somebody here to corral the Mats, let's be honest.
Could you imagine a full-on Mats episode?
It would have been the equivalent of like two little kids stealing a car and being like, yeah, let's not try. We don't know how to drive stick. Don't worry about it.
I want to do hood rat stuff.
we end up smoking parliaments at a 7-Eleven, and that's how the show ends.
Exactly.
It'll be a fun episode. I mean, we got a lot to talk about, a lot of not so much fun stuff to talk about considering the week that was, which we are going to get into here real quick in regards to how the Flyers fared. Matt Casey, yes.
I have a question. Why do you have the creepiest mustache on the Eastern Seaboard?
I'm so glad I shaved mine.
I had to because Hoagie shaved his. That was why.
Wow, you were the creepiest, Hoagie? You were the creepiest?
I had it last week.
I don't know. It's something about it. Like, I grow it out to the point where I grow like my entire beard out, which is not much, as I'm sure most of you that watch know.
Do you have like a 1970s Robin Hood kind of beard? Like, it's just like the little like...
No.
Is it like the same?
It's not great. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's a little more fuller than Konechny's. Not nearly as full as Ryan Ellis. No one's is. But
who's that?
I was going to say, if any of you listening know who that is.
Our 19th.
Not any current Flyer fans know who that is.
It just gets to a point where I'm like, all right, it's time.
I was today years old when I realized that Ryan Ellis was actually on the Flyers. Yeah.
Well, welcome to the club.
Yeah.
But
you mean the race car driver, right?
The race car, yeah. What is he? Truck Series guy.
Something.
Anyway, creepy mustache. Good job.
Yes, thank you. I take that as a compliment and hold it in the highest regard. Anyways, the week that was, the Flyers ended up with, let's be honest, it doesn't matter what happened before the San Jose game. Pretty shitty week. For all intents and purposes, right? Let's call a spade a spade here.
I mean, at least we gave the shellacking back to Buffalo after we got
that was actually like, because what was that? A Friday, Saturday back-to-back? Do I have that right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That Friday game was just an anomaly. Because what did we outshot them like 40-10 or something ridiculous?
You're thinking of the Tuesday game where we outshot them. What was it? It was something stupid.
Oh, it was ridiculous.
We almost tripled them in shots.
Anyway,
40-15.
So we lose that, but then we come back and have, we just could not stop shooting the puck against Buffalo and scoring, but that was short-lived.
Yeah, it was not a pretty week by any means. I mean, that win against Buffalo, sure, yeah, we got that back. Nice, kind of cancels things out. But then going out to California and losing to San Jose, who had just got done losing 2 games by getting 20 goals hung on them in both games apiece.
No,
unbelievable.
10 goals apiece.
10 goals apiece, yeah. 20 goals divided by 2.
Is that true?
Yeah. Back-to-back games of 10 goals.
Nashville and Pittsburgh, correct?
I don't know off the top of my head. I can try to look it up if you want. But
yeah, I know Pittsburgh was definitely one of them. I think Nashville was the other. It was bad. It was horrendous. And right then and there, people started talking about potentially San Jose being the worst team in NHL history, not just this season, but in the history of the National Hockey League.
Not if we have something to say about it.
And
You
in
just
come the
knew.
Flyers saying,
Trap
"Hold
game."
my beer."
Trap game, all in red lights.
Like that shouldn't have even been a trap game. That needs to be a gimme game, in my opinion.
Because it doesn't get any easier. Like if you look at the schedule coming up, what do we have? LA again. I think we skipped over the first LA game where they just like took us to the woodshed and said, "Put your mouth on the curb," and we said, "Thank you, sir."
Right. We have Anaheim, I think, Friday night.
So schedule ahead. We have Anaheim, LA back to back, Friday, Saturday.
Oh boy,
Back to back, and LA's rested. I'm assuming. I'm just assuming. I don't
Probably,
know.
yeah.
I'm assuming.
And then we come back home and play Carolina, and then we play Vegas the following Saturday.
Jesus.
Followed by Columbus back to back Saturday, Sunday.
Oh
And
my
then
god.
Then it's the Islanders, Rangers, Islanders back to back Friday, Saturday.
What?
Carolina, and the Devils to end out the month. So
we become sellers by Christmas.
yeah,
Pretty much.
Holy
mention-
Metro to end out the
And
month
let's
of November.
focus. How many sets of back-to-backs? 3?
Let's start from the beginning. So we
Three
have,
back-to-backs in the first 2
we
months.
had last week. We have this Saturday or Friday, Saturday. Excuse me. Then we have next Saturday, Sunday, and then we have Black Friday and Saturday.
So that's 4
4
within
in
a
the
span
same
of
month.
about a month.
Yeah.
Like that, I don't know, man. That's a. I don't like it. I don't
Well,
like it.
it certainly doesn't help when we don't have a backup goalie. Like,
Sure.
that's not good.
A
Well,
bomb
Carter-
fire.
or starting goalie.
Carter Hart is back now. Reports are showing that Carter Hart's going to be back in net against Anaheim, so that's good. He's back, fantastic. However, after that, gets a little dicey. Even with Urson, like, yeah, he had a decent showing the other night, but like, I don't know, man. I haven't seen much this year from him, and it's a bit disappointing.
Yeah, I think the concern is it's like, okay, this was your moment, Urson. We're like, hey, you had you could have taken something. And I would say, what he played in that Buffalo win? Is that right? Like, was that his
Correct.
loan?
Yep.
Correct.
And then
Win.
what's his
But,
name?
like-
Cal Peterson played in the back to back.
You know, Peterson, it's just clear is not it. Like, that guy's
Right.
got to be like, put him through waivers as many times as you want. Like, somebody please claim him. But
Honestly, I don't think anybody is.
no,
Yeah.
nobody's going
I
to.
mean,
We're stuck
you
with
you just saw what's his name in Edmonton be put on waivers, and no one took him.
right. But maybe we should have.
Yeah, well,
Right.
let's not go back to that.
But it's so tough, man. Because like Hart, when he's in there, he gives us a shot to win. Like I
Right.
would argue, with the exception of maybe the Ottawa game, maybe there was another one in there where we got shelled. But like he gives you a shot to win, and that's all you can ask for with a third period looming. Urson, I think he's coming into his own, but he obviously didn't grasp. He didn't grab the opportunity in front of him. Like Peterson, like kick freaking rocks, dude. Get out of here.
Yeah, that guy showed absolutely nothing. And against this former team, like, what more motivation do you need? The team that traded you away, you get the start and lay an absolute egg.
What do you think he did that night? Like after the game, like what do you think happened between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. in Cal Peterson's life?
I can tell you what was sitting on his dining room table. Glass of scotch, an ashtray, a handgun.
Oh, God.
I'm kidding. That's
I thought he
terrible.
was I was going with poetry, but you went with a handgun. But okay,
Oh,
whatever.
we're
So
going with
other
poetry
people,
now.
yeah, he was gonna write poetry.
Let's get away from that now. I feel bad
So-
about that one.
So we have
In this
Carter Hart
day
with
and
the
age,
guitar,
Eric,
Cal Peterson with the poetry.
Let's all right. Let's harp a little bit on the San Jose game, because, good God, man, I'm just at a loss for words. Like, I thought about it because in the high and wide chat, everybody was talking about bets and who's they're putting their money on, and in my mind, I'm thinking there is no safer bet than picking San Jose to win this game, given the Flyers' track record against teams like this. And I'm kicking myself because I didn't get in on the action.
Yeah,
well,
I mean,
I was on the wrong end of the action. I was hoping.
you have to. I mean, you have to think that the Flyers have the advantage there, but then you look back and almost the exact same thing happened a year ago.
Yep.
Flyers went out there, San Jose's, maybe it was even Anaheim or somebody
No, it was
they
San
were
Jose.
just brutal,
No,
and
it
we end up
wasn't
laying
San
an
Jose.
egg. We end up
Was it-
absolutely laying it. Like we played down to the competition, and this is the kind of stuff where you hope that the quote unquote standard that Torts has ends up taking effect. And look, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't stay up until 1 a.m. watching the San Jose game. Derek, you may have been up with the screaming baby changing diapers. I don't know.
Nope. I went
But
to bed after the second, and not
I-
before the second ended.
I didn't watch 1 second of that game, but to lose to a team who was 0-9-1, dude, you can't be the slump buster. That's
Right.
that's not good.
Right. It's embarrassing. I mean, to play a team in which you are expected to go in there and handle business, and you can't do that. There's nothing more Flyer about it. I feel like quintessential Flyers right there.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, I stayed up and watched the entire game.
Oh, you poor thing, Hoagie.
By the end of the third, I kind of just crawled in the bed and put it on the TV in bed. And I was like, why am I still doing this?
You masochist.
But I mean, there was just no flow, they couldn't complete passes, they couldn't do any. I don't know if it was from the travel or what have you, but it was just miserable to watch. I was like, what? They're not even interested in playing this game. And it's another game where they outshot the opponent by double. It was 39-19 or something like that.
Yep.
I just don't understand where we're coming from, where we're making all these shots. And someone has said it on this podcast everywhere. We just don't have finishers, but no one can put the puck in the net.
Yeah. Now, one person that might have been able to, Morgan Frost, was not in the lineup that night. However, we've seen he has an affinity for thriving against lower competition, i.e. Arizona last year. Now,
The last 35 games of last year.
right. So I have personally a lot of thoughts about this, but I want to get the ball rolling at the very least in regards to this conversation, because there's a lot to unpack in terms of Tortorella's answer as to why he benched him. Was it difficult to bench him? And then just the benching altogether. But let's start. Hoagie, give me your thoughts in regards to the whole saga with.
Hold on, what were Tortorella's comments? Do you have Tortorella's comments, or can you paraphrase them?
So after the game, someone asked him, "Hey, was it hard putting Couturier back in the lineup and pulling Frost out?" And all he said was no.
That was it.
Just didn't nothing. Just
He
didn't.
He did come out today with another statement saying it's never easy taking somebody out of the lineup, but you right then and there, someone within that organization, whether it was a player or a higher up, was like, hey, maybe you should elaborate a little bit on that last one.
Well, I mean, obviously the emotions are high. You just lost to one of the worst teams in the league, and I'm sure in his own mind he's pissed and wants to go scream at his players and not have to, sit in front of a bunch of reporters and answer questions at that point in time, especially about a player that wasn't even involved in the game.
Yeah.
All right. And I'll be completely honest, I think that this is just the wrong player to do that. I just don't understand how people are so enamored with this guy. I liked Morgan Frost, and I thought that he would end up being a good player, a very good player at that. But I'm not seeing it, and I don't understand the fascination surrounding him and how people get so attached to it. People didn't make this kind of fuss when Wade Allison got sent down. People didn't make this kind of. I mean, to the extent
they did, to an extent, but not to the extent of what's happening.
Right. It's there are so many Flyers fans that will die on this hill that Morgan Frost should be a day in, day out NHL player, and it's okay if he's not.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
It's okay that we have a player that is not an NHL player. It sucks that we wasted a first round pick on him that we traded back into the first round to get. But from a human standpoint, like what I don't care. I wish the best for the guy. If he can play somewhere else, great. If he's going to find a career in the AHL, awesome. I'm done caring about it, man. I'm done.
I don't know. Hoagie, why don't you riff off this a little bit?
Honestly, I'm kind of in the same boat as Derek. Like, I just don't care anymore. And I've said it for a year and a half now. Like, I'm just tired of the Morgan Frost experiment. He's hot or he's cold, and we can never get a very consistent player. And at this point, like, yeah, it sucks that he's not consistently in the lineup. Like that was just a shock to everybody. Because last year, like, yeah, he was in the lineup. Like he was yo-yoed up and down the lines and was sitting a little bit. But like this year, like obviously he's not doing something that Tortorella likes. And obviously there are better players that are outperforming him. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have the return of Coots, Atkinson, those types of players that return. You also have Forster and Brink that are playing their asses off to kind of beat him for a spot as well. So like at this point, like if he's not keeping up with the team, like he can't do it. I'm kind of interested to see what happens when he slots back into the lineup tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm. So is he coming back in the lineup tomorrow night?
Per Kevin Kurz of The Athletic, yes.
And so who do you think sits? Paling again?
That's what my money's on.
Yeah, and then slotting Captain Lawton back down to the fourth.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any shot that Forrester ends up going? I'm a big believer of Forrester, but like I think the kid needs to sit for a couple games.
I'm with you.
I can see it.
And so let me go back to this. With Frost, I think the reason why people are invested is because like we get so enamored with these draft picks. And with a first rounder specifically, we follow it and we analyze it and we crunch it. Oh my God, did you see back in 2019 when he played 3 games with Giroux and he did a between the leg shot? That's the potential that he has. Now we haven't seen that since then. But I think that's like we just get emotionally invested. I think that's okay from a fan standpoint. Like that's why we're freaking psychos doing this podcast and stuff like that. And that's why people who, our 3 listeners, that's why they listen to it too, because they want in too. But I'm with you. I don't believe in the Frost experiment. What I'm wondering is if Torts is flexing his nuts a little bit with, hey, you just signed this guy that like I wasn't totally nuts about, no pun intended, but like totally crazy about, and now I'm gonna bench him. I don't think he's that manipulative or like that conniving, but it just seems weird that it's like, hey, Morgan Frost was like kind of the one, not even holdout, but the one, free agent contract that was delayed a little bit.
Yeah.
And now he's sitting.
I can see 2 sides to this where those negotiations lasting as long as they did could negatively impact the perception surrounding him, because I'm sure Tortorella wanted him in camp as soon as possible to get to know him and know him better, I should say. But like from a business standpoint, you don't want to do something unless you're contracted to do so. Like that's in any job. I don't.
And he didn't miss any camp. Like nobody's saying he missed camp. Like
right. It was optional
like,
skates.
It just seems like a little bit. I feel like he always needs to make an example of someone. Like last year it was Hayes and Provorov.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he did it with Konechny last year too,
to an extent. But like I think like last year,
how that paid off though.
Hayes at the end of the year was playing basically 4th line minutes, if playing at all.
Mm-hmm.
And Provorov, I think there was all sorts of other issues in there as well. But I always feel like he needs to have that point and be like, no, front office, I'm the alpha dog here. Mm-hmm. And this is what it's going to be. Now, conversely, maybe Frost is just playing like shit. Mm-hmm. And maybe there's just other players playing better than him.
I think the one thing I'm noticing most, and like I'm not even going to say Frost is playing terribly, but it appears that he's playing an unmotivated game. He's not out there busting his hump every single shift. It appears to me Someone prove me wrong, sure, okay. But to
There's
me,
plenty
that's
of
what I'm
those.
seeing. Right. And like, I'm not here to start arguments. I'm not here to do any of that. Like, I'm just stating what I see. Like,
Right.
I don't see a motivated player. And that is the exact opposite of what I would expect from someone in Morgan Frost's skates right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think you might be just dead on that. It's just like, hey, the effort's not there. And when the effort's not there, how the hell do you expect to see the ice? Right. And, I don't know. I also would argue that, I think it's tough to say, hey, Coots is coming in and Frost, like someone's going out when Coots is coming in. Like, Couturier has proven even after injury that he is arguably one of the best players on this team.
Right. And back to the original point, like Torts' MO since being here has been like bust your ass, get a roster spot. If he's not seeing that, exactly, Hoagie nailed it on the head. That's the standard here. If you're not, you aren't playing. And I'm fine with that. I'd rather the guys that work hard, that are going to improve because they're working hard, than the guys who have become complacent and are just like, I'm a big enough name, I'll have a spot. Like, no, that's not how this should work at all.
We don't have any of those. We don't have big enough names.
Right. So like that should speak even more to the fact that Frost shouldn't be complacent.
Right.
Yeah.
The thing that really gets on my nerves with Frost is like everybody's like, oh, you're stunting his development. You're doing this to him. Blah blah blah. I'm like, there is no development anymore. He's not a prospect. He's an quote unquote NHLer. He's playing these games.
24.
I'd argue there's still a little bit of development to have there, but I get your point. Like, you're not a prospect anymore. Like you're either an AHLer, an NHLer, or you're a career tweener.
Right. Like, and yeah, I get it. Like, he's creating a lot of offensive chances, but like, maybe he's passing the puck too much. Maybe Torts would like to see him shoot.
Maybe I would too.
It's a lot of people have pointed that out. Oh, look at all these chances he's creating for line mates. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, why can't he?
People think he's the second coming of Jesus Christ too, apparently. But like, come on.
No, that's Michkov, and I will battle anyone who says otherwise.
We're all in agreement on that one.
Tortorella may be Judas, though.
Speaking of Michkov, anybody see the Galchenyuk video yet?
No.
Oh boy,
what happened?
Worth his arrest from over the summer. He got arrested, and there's video of him in the back of the police car saying some pretty dicey things,
like racist stuff.
Nice. Like I'm going back to Russia. Like you don't know what goes on there. That type of stuff.
Nice.
I'd advise whoever's listening right now, as well as you guys, if you haven't seen it, definitely don't watch it around your kids, but definitely take a look at it.
So I shouldn't watch it.
Yeah. So no, Hoagie.
So back to the Frost conversation. So like theoretically, he goes in tomorrow night. Is that when we're playing again tomorrow night? Is it another 10:00 game?
Yeah. It's the West Coast, baby.
Sakes, dude.
Hey,
this is when I lose interest. God damn it. Then by the time
at least it's not Christmas time.
Oh, it's brutal.
At least it's a Friday night, not a weeknight. Well, technically a weeknight, but it's weekend.
So do you see Forster or Brink making a move out, or do you see it being the fourth line or Paling again or somebody like that? Like, let me parlay this. Are Brink and Forster still impressing you guys to an extent that they are earning roster spots on a regular basis?
Hoagie?
Brink, absolutely. I mean, he's playing very well. Him and Verity are becoming my two favorite players to watch on the line because their chemistry is dynamic. Forster, I'll keep saying it. I love how he's shooting the puck. I just want him to finally crack that egg and finally get his first goal. Like, yeah, the attempts are there, but it might be beneficial for him to kind of think about it. Like, at this point, he's probably gripping the stick too hard and ripping it too hard. So I'd like to see him kind of think about it a little bit.
I agree with both points there. I think Brink, yes, you've got to keep him in the lineup. He's proven that he is ready in my mind, and he's playing very well. Now, there will be ups and downs to his season. I can agree with that, and I can understand it and accept it. With Forrester, I think that a trip to the AHL may do him some good because, like Hoagie said, if he's gripping it a little bit too tight, if it's just getting to him that he's not finishing these chances, again, maybe it's a bit of a disconnect. I think it's going to be a bit easier for him to finish those chances in the AHL, gain some of that confidence back so that when he's back up here, he's not gripping that stick every, oh man, I missed 5 shots, missed 3 shots last night, this, that. He'll be a bit more patient. And then when he gets that first goal, it's going to be a huge, huge sigh of relief. Like, okay, I got it. Let's score some more. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I almost view Forrester in a weird way, sort of like Tippett, where Tippett, I think, is a bona fide NHL player. And I would argue at his best, he is our best NHL player. He has the speed, he has the size, he has the shot. He's got the net front presence. Like, the guy is an animal when he can put it all together. Now, does he put it all together every single game? Absolutely not. But I think with Tippett, what you see is a lot of like goals in bunches. And when he scores one, he scores multiple. And then, he has like 2 or 3 maybe this year. Like, it's not a lot. And it's a little bit disappointing, but I see Forrester in that similar light where, like, once he figures out how to crack that code from a winger and to use that shot and maybe get a little bit more aggressive in front of the net, I think it will come. Now, I don't disagree with you, Hoagie, that like he just may need a game or two in the box. And I'm not even saying send him down to the AHL, but just be like, all right, take a minute, take a breath.
Breathe.
Look at it from up top, see what's going on, get some rest, and then let's get you back in when the time is right. Now, if he sits for more than 3 games, you got to send him back down to the AHL.
Yeah, at that point, you're wasting it. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's a week of wasted hockey right there.
I would argue that his development in the AHL is not going to be more beneficial than him like struggling a little bit in the NHL, but it gets to a point where if the confidence is just hit so hard,
right?
What are you really doing for the kid? Yeah. And I want to see him succeed. Like, I think, I'm with you guys. I will say it every episode. I eat crow on Brink. Like, Brink is freaking dynamic. Like,
we're past that now, man. We're good.
No, I'm gonna sit here and whip myself in the back until
shame.
And Brink has been impressive, and every time he's on the ice, or not every time, but most times he's on the ice, something happens. There's something little there. And I saw that with Forrester a year ago last spring when he was coming on. Like, he had something going on. He had that spark. I don't see it right now. And that's frustrating.
It's fizzled a little bit. And I mean, I think there's definitely the opportunity to get that back. It's like you said, once that first one, it's Pringles, man. Once you pop, the fun don't stop.
Yeah. It's a great analogy. I love it.
I thought you were doing a mustache reference with Pringles.
That was awesome.
I feel like I've said that before on this show too, like years ago. But regardless,
you know what? You didn't have to say that. You can regurgitate it.
You're right. It's worth regurgitating. Let's be honest. He gets that one goal. I mean, I think it's going to start coming in waves, and I think that's the best thing that can happen for him. I only mentioned going back down to the AHL just from a confidence standpoint, just because if he goes another 3 games where he's in the lineup and he can't score, like, I'm sure his confidence is rattled already, could get rattled even more. Like, sending him back down, finding his groove down there, scoring, half a dozen goals in a dozen games, whatever, like that might help him a little bit. But there's also the confidence factor of, oh man, I just got sent back down to the AHL. So depending on how
Wade Allison route and pout like a little freaking baby,
or you go the Cam York route.
Goal.
Bravo! Like, way to go, Wade. I'm happy for him. Great, but
I would love to see Wade come back up. Like, it's so frustrating to see because I actually do like him as a player, but
yeah, he's got quite the hole to dig himself out of, though, in my opinion.
Yep.
Oh yeah. There are a lot of names in front of Wade Allison.
So back to the point, though, do you sit Forrester in and put Frost in? Is he the player you move out? In my opinion, I don't think it's the worst idea for the next game.
I don't either.
I don't hate it, but I'm not. I don't know. There's a lot of juggling there. You just want to put where you want to put Frost. You know, put him on a wing, or you want to put him in the center.
You put him in center, move Lawton to the wing.
On the wing.
Yeah. And that's the big, hey, the Swiss Army knife. Like, hey, good for you, Lawton.
Hey,
like,
hey. Watch your
That's-
mouth.
It's a good option. I did like the option of taking out Paling, just from a standpoint in which you can put Lawton down on that fourth line. However, I like Paling. I think Paling, there's a lot that he offers in terms of a solid fourth line center, a good PK, good on the PK, I should say, quick, fast, like he can create chances off the odd man rush there. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm willing to sacrifice the chemistry of one line to try to benefit just one player, if that makes sense.
I'm at the point, though, Derek, where we just lost the worst team in the history of the NHL.
Sure.
There should be nothing that is off the table right now.
Sure. No, absolutely. And I agree. I'm a sucker for that fourth line. I like that fourth line. And you can say what you want about it's a fourth line, blah, 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 blah. But like, even your fancy stats early in the season showed that it was one of the better lines in the NHL. So suck it. But yeah.
I agree. I do like the fourth line. I don't want to mess with it. It's like, I'm just trying to, like, if it's not Forster, who is it?
Right. That's the tough.
Like, if you leave that fourth line intact, who is it?
Right. There was some talk, and I would love to hear your opinions on this. There's another forward that's been struggling a little bit, and that forward is Noah Cates.
Now, by struggling, do you refer to offensively or 200?
Offensively. I don't think he'll ever struggle as a 200-foot player.
Yeah.
But as an offensive minded person and scoring and generating offense, he hasn't hit his stride this year.
No, and I think that's fair. I don't know if anyone ever thought Cates was going to be an offensive juggernaut, but I think you are hoping that he finds a little bit more than he's had right now. But right now, I think like the base for Cates is like, are you solid defensively? And as long as you are doing that, you are providing value to this team. And I think he is still doing that. Now, look, we got lit up 5-0 by the Kings. Like, you know,
that's expected.
Who was doing anything defensively that night? But conversely, you know, you play that Edmonton game and you have Couturier and then Cates in reserve, and you know you shut that whole team down. So I think they've invested too much in that kid to put him down. Like I don't know. I don't see it as a pure stats move. If he's all of a sudden a -4 on the night, like then you got to consider that.
Right. What do you think, Ogie?
Who's he been playing with? Is it Konechny and Forster? Or
I want to say yes, but I'm not positive.
Or is it Brink and Farabee? I think it's Brink and Farabee, actually.
Yeah. I'll self-admittedly, I'm not big on like the lines. That's
because I feel like they juggle a lot.
And it's going to happen.
Consistency.
Every single year at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a goal and 3 assists. Like, I think he's mainly probably taken a step back and played more of his 200-foot game of shutting down on their lines and stuff like that. Because if he is playing with Beezer and Brink, like, they're the ones just lighting it up together. Like, I think he's the one creating the chances for him. So, like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Torts is kind of telling him to not be that offensive guy because he doesn't have to be that offensive guy. Last year we didn't have anybody that was really.
Yeah, we kind of need to be that offensive guy.
Yeah, but like he doesn't have to be
when you're not scoring goals.
We've scored 1 goal in the last 2 games. Like we need everyone to be that. Zamula, get your ass in gear. Score some goals, dude.
You're playing on the wing tonight.
Sam Horton 2.0.
Yeah, no, it was thrown out there. I don't necessarily agree with Cates coming out of the lineup. I think there's more he has to offer than others, given how they're playing right now as well. So I like the idea of maybe a bit of a reset for Forrester,
Yeah.
more so a Konechny reset than a Frost reset.
Right.
Right.
So, give him a couple games as opposed to, basically 6 games in a row than every other game. But I think the safest bet right now is that Forrester's or the safest bet right now, I think, is Paling comes out. I think the one that makes more sense than that would be the taking out Forrester.
I personally think that they'll play Forrester tomorrow night
Mhm.
against Anaheim, who is technically a weaker team. I think the LA game, you need some beef on the lineup, and so you put Paling back in there for that fourth line.
Right.
That's my prediction anyway, and then you remove Forrester out of there on Saturday night.
Okay. What about you, Hoagie? You got predictions on that?
No, that's what makes the most sense. I don't think you take Paling out of both games.
Right.
It doesn't really make sense, honestly.
How pissed is
So-
Paling? He's like, dude, all I'm doing is like busting heads. I'm getting a couple goals, and like you're
Right?
getting me for this freaking pipsqueak? Like, come
And
on.
The funny thing is, like, at the beginning of the season, like, that line was like never going to be broken up, and then it happened like the first time when Frost was coming back, and I was like, "What?"
It's a good problem to have. And one thing that's like in my mind, I don't know, this is nuts, but like at some point, if Cates can't put it together offensively, does he become the fourth line center? Like he'd be good there. Don't get me wrong, but I just like
third line center, honestly.
that's what he is now.
Yeah, I don't know. It's logical because you're going to play him against some other team's top lines to wear him out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's the worst idea in the world. I'd rather that than sit him.
Right.
I think it's nice to have that option of you got Paling, you got Lawton, you got Cates, who could all basically move from 2 to 4. Well, Paling cannot, but like you have Lawton and Cates who can move from 2 to 4 from a line standpoint. Play wing or center.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice problem to have, but like I don't know. I think it's frustrating overall that we're getting so close from like a shot standpoint, from a chance standpoint, and you're busting your butt to try to get one goal, and then all of a sudden they come down and boom, one shot, one goal. And I think it's really coming down to the goalie issues. I'm not even saying defensive issues, although defense hasn't been great. It hasn't been terrible, but the goalie issues have been like pretty prevalent there.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. Now, having spoken for about a half an hour about Morgan Frost, flipping to the other side of the puck, the defense, we get to a defensive unit now riddled with injuries. Shocker. Something we are all used to at this point, but really not much of an update on Ristolainen. There was something that came out. I'm not even going to say a report, more so a rumor that Ristolainen could be out till December or January.
Mark Stahl interview.
It was like a Finnish. It was a Finnish interview.
It was interview with someone in Finland.
Oh,
yeah, that's true. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for calling me out on that bullshit. But there was that, and then there was Mark Stahl.
Sorry.
So real quick, Matt Casey, before my son starts freaking out, I got to go say goodnight. Give me your thoughts on that.
I think with Ristolainen, I'm a little bit more concerned than most, but more so because we look at the Ellis situation. We look at,
Couturier, Atkinson.
like it's on the hey, no worries, he's gonna play, and then all of a sudden it's been 2 months and the guy hasn't played.
There's a setback.
Yeah, another setback, and I just anytime we have any sort of experienced player who's kind of decent, they end up getting hurt, and whether it's Couturier, Atkinson, Ellis, even Hayes. Like,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
was
like,
supposed to say Hayes.
you know, it's just I don't know if it's a curse. I don't really believe in that stuff, but it's now getting to the point of a bit ridiculous. Now, Ristolainen, I'm a big believer in. I don't know. I'm a little concerned at the lack of information and the fact that we just haven't seen him at all. And so
Right.
I'm a little bit concerned about that part of it. But what about you on there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same book there, but I mean, I'm not too worried about it. Maybe he's seeing his people in Finland or whatever. Like he's taking care. He trusts people that know maybe it's something he's done before and they know how to take care of it. But honestly,
like they have like stem cell research that we can't do, and
right? That we don't have the access to or won't fund.
Your healthcare in America is shit.
Right. I mean, listen, if I'd rather him get better now than playing now and aggravating it somehow along the season. But like, if it's December, who really cares? We're rebuilding at this point. Like,
yeah,
I would like to hear some news, but I mean,
yeah, I think flipping it to the Stahl thing, I'm not really worried about this. Stahl, like that was a hand, like I think a broken finger or something like that.
It was
like,
a rib.
It's something that was like it wasn't an indefined injury that like we've seen with other defensemen, and we have a 5-week timeline, and we're 3 weeks into that or 2 weeks into that. So I'm confident we'll see Stahl before Christmas, hopefully.
Yeah. So date of injury was October 20th, and it was the rib. So I mean.
Yeah,
I can't imagine that we're probably coming back, right?
Yeah,
how bad the break or whatever the extent of the injury is.
It's got to be. I mean, Christmas would be basically, 6 weeks, and so I think that we can safely assume that Stahl will be back. Now, I think the advantage of this is that we're actually getting a look at the defenseman that we thought. Oh, maybe they'll get a couple games. Like Zamula is now an NHL player,
right? Which it's so beneficial to the staff, upper management, to the coaches. They're seeing who they have and what's available for the future. Obviously, Zamula's holding it down pretty well. There's some times where, he definitely looks like he's a young NHL defenseman. Why is he making that type of play? Why is he making that type of pass? They're little kinks that we're gonna work through, and we know he's a young defenseman. He's gonna get through it. And they're gonna teach him through it. And it sucks that we don't have, that veteran presence anymore. Like Risto's not playing, Mark Stahl is not playing. That was supposed to be our like big veteran presence on the blue line. Now you're kind of leaning on Sean Walker and
which, by the way, Sean Walker has been hands down the biggest surprise of this entire team, which is not necessarily a good sign, but at the same time, it's like good for him, man. Like way to grab it. I look at it like McEwen a couple of years ago. It's like, okay, who is this guy? Oh, he's now our number one forward in 2020. But I think the other thing we have to talk about on the defensive front is York, and York getting benched, and from what I hear, rightfully so. Yeah,
which game was that? I forget. Was that
I think it was the LA game where they got smoked 5-0.
I didn't watch that game. I was out, but I mean, sometimes you're just not needed. And York's the type of player that bounces back from those types of games, and he does it very well. And when the coach or upper management calls him out, he handles it very professionally, like a veteran, which is surprising because he is young and he's still learning his ways through the NHL, but he handles himself so professionally and so maturely that it's so good to see in like your number 2 defenseman as what he's playing. So
yeah, I think the benefit is that a lot of these younger guys, and York included, and even Sanheim, I mean they're getting big boy minutes now. And
Sanheim is playing very big minutes. Almost
I think he was number 1 in the NHL at one point. I don't know if he still is, but
he was like number 1 or number 2. I mean, right now his average time of ice is 25:52. Like,
Yeah, so you're finding out, and it's not through design, it's through default on what
right.
the Flyers have at defense. And I would argue, a 5-0 shellacking is not a good sign from LA, but I would argue I'm not seeing the blatant what's the word I'm looking for? The blatant negligence that we saw maybe 2 years ago, where it was like, my God, this defense is bad. I'm not saying this defense is great, but they're serviceable. And that is what we need at this point. Now, what's not serviceable is our backup goalie situation. And it's so apparent that this team right now, as it's set up, we can't outscore our mistakes. We can't out-defend our mistakes. If we don't have Hart in goal or Urson playing to an elite level, we're fucked.
Yeah, we're pretty screwed. And I mean, last year we said it all year. Like, a lot of games are going to be onesie, twosie goal games.
Onesie, twosie?
Onesie, twosies. Close games. This year, not the case. We have some guys putting the puck in the net, but like our goaltenders are not being serviceable enough for them to keep us in games. And it's pretty tough. I mean, when Carter Hart's on, he's on, at least this year. He hasn't really surprised me. I don't think he's been tested. It also is 13 games of the season. He hasn't gotten all that much playing time, so there's still more to come. But I mean, Kyle Peterson's obviously not doing it. We talked about it earlier in the episode. And Urson, I was really expecting when he got put in that Buffalo game for Hart. I thought he was just going to take the reins and let it ride like he did last year when he came in around November Christmas time.
It was disappointing. It was disappointing. But then he did bounce back the following night.
Right, which
wasn't
I was really encouraged that they put him back out there for like the redemption game pretty much. Because like he held it down and he held his own.
And then Peterson goes in for the 5-0 shellacking, and then Urson comes in with a 2-1, and like, you got to be able to outscore a 2-1 game. Like,
right.
And I didn't look at the goals from San Jose, but just looking at the stats, like, you got to be able to get at least 2 goals in a game, especially against a team of that caliber. And so I put that much more on the offense versus the goaltending.
Yeah. And honestly, sometimes it just comes down to the other goaltender playing a hell of a game. Like,
right. we seem to get those quite a bit. Yeah.
We get a lot of those opponent goaltenders that are just standing on their heads and becoming like Marty Brodeurs.
Before we get into the week ahead, the one thing I would say is the goaltending situation. Hopefully Hart is back, and I hope that does stabilize. If it doesn't, if Hart ends up not being able to go long term, I don't see any way that we are going to maintain this rotation that we have. I think we have to pick somebody up on waivers at least to be competitive.
Right. I honestly don't know how we're gonna make this happen. Like, when Hart went down last week, everybody was like, "Oh, here comes Hart's injury issues once again." Hopefully, I saw a report like he couldn't even like move with this latest injury. It was something to his lower back, and I'm like, God forbid that happens again. He's freaking laying out on the ice doing nothing.
These back injuries are really dinging us.
Screwing the hell out of us. So I mean, that has to get figured out. Number one, like number two, like Urson's got to figure it out. I don't know if we can risk putting him on waivers to kind of. I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head if he's waiver exempt, but like maybe he's one of those that needs to go back to the AHL.
I think he is, and I think that Felix is now on a conditioning stint in whatever the hell the name is.
Lehigh Valley.
Lehigh. So I'm interested to see if Sandstrom can come up and actually do something in a backup role.
Yeah,
and I don't want to pull the plug on Urson, but like it just you had your moment, you had your window. It didn't grab it, and
it's closed. Yeah. So especially going against the Sharks, where like
that
was the biggest window opening.
What do we got ahead here? What do we got this week?
So tomorrow night we have the Ducks in LA, 10 o'clock start. Gotta love it.
Amazing.
And then Saturday we have the second half of the back-to-back with the Kings, 10:30 start. Gotta love that.
Yeah.
And then we come back home on the 15th next Wednesday with the Hurricanes.
You know what? At the very least, we have a couple days to recoup, though.
Yeah, 3 days. That's obviously one of them is going to be a travel day, probably the Sunday.
Right, and then you have a day off, and then you practice in the following.
Right.
So
Yep.
that's at least reasonable. But you look at the way that we played Carolina. You look at the way that we played a couple of these teams where it's you got Vegas, you got Carolina, you got these teams that are traditional playoff contenders.
Yep.
We've played them good, and this team has just got to put it together a little bit more in the games that you're supposed to win, and that's the frustrating part for me, is that you're just playing down to the competition.
Yeah, and that's what I said when they played Anaheim. What was it, like 2 weeks ago, where they got shellacked 7-2? Like they're a pretty relative team with the way we are in rebuilding and restabilizing themselves. Like it's got to be competitive. Like
I would argue that we have to win 2 of the 3 games this week. We have to, otherwise we are going to fall so far back that it's going to be insurmountable.
We're going to be selling by Christmas, like you said.
Yeah, so we got to do it. So anyway, Hoagie, we're done. Derek bailed on us for parenting, quote unquote,
things,
parent stuff. So anyway, do you remember our affiliates? I can't remember our affiliates.
We've got 5 Minute Major and High and Wide Radio.
There we go. We love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, until next time, the Matt's holding down.
The Matt's holding it down from the end of it. I love it.
All right. Bye now.
Bye now.